snap others. Oh, that's okay. So the one thing that somebody did ask me to cover was the importing of a project and getting started really quickly. It's one of my old movies, and I call it Super Quick Vectorworks House, getting started in getting started. Oh, I don't want to see that. Getting started in 12 minutes. So I'm going to use that. So I've got a site plan over here. I'm going to bring in my site plan, and I'm going to scale it so it's the right size, what you might call calibration. So let's just drag in my plan. I've got some contour plans, so this is contour plans from an old project. It's a PDF file, so I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to turn on snap to geometry and import. Now this is what's known as a raster-based file. When we zoom in, it gets very crisp still. Now if it's a raster-based file, when we import that, it won't get crisp. It'll stay fuzzy. So we've got snap to geometry, and you can see that I can actually snap to geometry all the way along, and my cursor is actually snapping to those contour lines. So first of all, we need to make sure that this is the right scale. This is 1 to 200 on it, and I've got some dimensions that I can use. So there's a center of a circle here and a center of a circle down there. So I'm going to measure those, or at least I'm going to change the scale anyway. I'm just going to calibrate it, because calibrating it is probably the easiest way to do it. Now if you're here watching, don't forget to leave me a chat. Let me know what you want me to say, what you want me to change, and we'll see what happens. So I've got that to start with. I've got it selected. You can see I've selected over here. And so I'm going to calibrate it. So modify, scale objects. I'm going to do it symmetric by distance, and then I'm going to measure the distance. So from the center of the circle, and if you hit the Z key, you can zoom in, or the Z key. So from there to there, now I know that should be 22.9 meters. Now I know it's a meter, so I put in M. Now this is going to scale the entire drawing. And if you do this in an existing project and you scale the entire drawing, you will completely mess up your project. So be very careful. If it's selected over here and you don't choose entire drawing, then it will only scale this object. So there we are, that should be about the right size. So just to check, I'm going to dimension it from the center of that circle to the center of that circle. Looks like 22.9 meters. It looks like we're underway. I'll just check this one as well. So from the end of that polygon to the end of that one, 20.6. Yeah, so it was sweet as. So I'm going to start with there's a couple of ways to do this. I can't remember which way I did it in my old YouTube movie, but one way to do it might be to try exploding this or ungrouping it, where you go modify, convert, and choose convert to group. Now sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm going to now ungroup that. So Control U to ungroup it. And all I'm left with is a rectangle. So that didn't work, so let's undo. The other, so it's still a PDF page. The other thing might be to explode it, where you just go ungroup. Are you sure you want to do it? Yes. And it leaves me with a rectangle, no, a bitmap. And the bitmap, once I move the bitmap away, I'm left with, oh, there is some stuff underneath that. Okay, so let's get rid of that rectangle. We're left with a group, so we ungroup that. And we're left with some information. There's something left there. What's that one? That's a polyline. And here we've got some text, I think. So now I can start. Now, if it's actually given me this polygon shape here. So I could do that. I'm going to go all the way back to before I've ungrouped it. So that sometimes works, and if it doesn't work, you have to trace around this manually. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the polygon tool to trace around, and I can snap to these corners, and the Z or the Z key is really helpful in this case because it allows you to zoom without using your scroll wheel. Now I could scroll in and out, but I just find the Z key so much quicker. I can just come in and snap to the different parts. Now I do need to snap at each boundary location. I don't know if you can see, but there's actually a lot of little boundary points. I could draw all the way around in one go, but I do want to have points along here. So that one and that one. Now the reason I want to have all these different points is so that when I convert this object into a property line, I get the right boundary locations. So the Z key again. And if you hit the Z key twice, you'll zoom in a bit more. Now where's the next boundary there? Another one in the corner. Down here. Now when I get, oh well, I'm not at the last one yet. The next one's there. Now when I get to the last one, it should close. So there we are, that's now closed. I do need to create an offset for my construction, so if I use my offset tool, which now, oh sorry, we're going to create a boundary object first. So let's go right click, and we're going to create objects from shapes. Vectorworks calls this a property line. It's one of the tricks I use all the time, and I keep forgetting that I do it, is when you've got a long list of things like this, if you type the first letter, it'll jump down to that letter. I want the property line, which should be there. And we're just going to go OK. And so it's given me a property line, and you can see the property line matches the boundary locations that I've got before. So you can see there's a boundary there, another one there. Do I want to show the name? Do I want to show the number? Show the area? I can turn those off. I can also turn off individual parts of my property line if I want. I want this unit to hectares. Let's have that. Yeah, hectares. We'll use. We've got annotate segments, document units. We want this to be in meters. We want 2 decimals. Does that look better? Yeah, that looks much better. And we can also format the text. Now, when you create text, there's a couple of tricks you can try. You can go to the font, you can choose the font. You can go to the size and choose the size. But what I do is I go text, format text, because now I can choose the font, and I want Arial narrow. I want this to be 20-point text. I want it to be bold, and I want it to be center justified. So this dialog box allows you to do all that stuff all at once, which I think is kind of cool. Okay, and so I got that. Now I've still got my polygon. So when I click in the middle, I've got my property line. If I go to the edge, you can see a little asterisk appears. So if I J-click, I want my polygon. Cool. So I've got my polygon, and I'm going to offset that to give me my boundary. So when I use my offset tool, I'm going to offset the original, and the distance is 1 meter. Now you do have to make sure you use the council regulations for this. This has got no fill. It's going to have a dashed line. And what do we want to say? No, not yet. So that's what I've got so far. So that's my PDF page. I should really put that on a class so I can hide it. If I haven't got a class, I can create one, which is site-scan. And my site scan is not going to have any savings on that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate and edit that one. So this isn't site scan 2, this is site boundary. Site boundary user creation is going to have no fill. It's going to have a line, and I want to have line types. I want the one which is the dashed, or the double dash, that one. Okay, we'll choose that one with the dash. It's 0.18, and I'm going to give it a dark blue line. We want not active document, but standard colors, and I want to give it a blue. That's everything. Cool. So now when I click here, it selects my property line. So now I can choose site, boundary, and always do this, yes. And so now you can see it's see-through. If I zoom in, you can see you should be able to see the dashed line, but it's probably got the scan on top of it. So my scan object, I'm going to right-click on my contour, right-click on my class here. I'm going to say assign to selection, and then I'm going to hide that scan because I don't want to see it just at the moment. And so now you can see I'm starting to get my boundary underway. This is my outline, and we're going to import the next part, which is I've got a bracing plan. Okay, let's import that. Now this has got scale on it, so I can import this. Normally this is not as nice as this. Normally it's really rough. So I've got a dimension here, so let's just check our dimension. So from that corner, it's nearly accurate. There we are, 5 meters, so it is actually accurate. Now I don't want to see the entire thing like this. So what I'm going to do is double click, and I can drop a rectangle in here. Now this rectangle is going to crop my PDF file. I could drop it really close. I could snap right onto the edge of my building. Let's do that. Right onto the corner. And right onto the corner here. Now it might mean that I lose just the edges of my walls when I do that. Let's have a look. Yeah, you can see I've just lost the edge of my walls there. I've lost half the line. So we know that's the right size. Now I do like working orthogonal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change to an orthogonal look. I'm going to use the rotate plan tool. Click on that corner, click on that corner, and it just rotates. Now this is just a temporary rotation to get me to rotate round. Now I can rotate my building. So I can grab that building by the corner, stick it on that line. Now I know that this rectangle that I use, this crop area, is parallel to my building. So I need my rotate tool from that corner, there, there. And I can move this, what I should say is, yes, let's save this. YouTube Live, April. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this automatically back up. When I click here, I've got my Vectorworks preferences. I want to look at the auto backup, the auto save. Now it's going to save into my documents folder. It's every 15 operations. It's going to automatically create a backup. It's not going to ask me. It's just going to do it. So now that I know that I've got this parallel to my site, I'm going to move it to the corner. So that's where I want it. Now I'm going to use my numeric keypad to create a top plan view, because I'd also like to put in a north arrow. North arrow, my favorite one is number 4. Scale factor 2, that's better. Now every time I rotate the plan, I will still know which way is north, because the north arrow is going to rotate and I'll still see it. So that's given me some information. I've got my house in and I've got that to the right place. Sorry, I've turned off my chat. Clicking the ruler doesn't make an offset for me. Yeah, sorry about my chat. It wasn't straight. I don't know what you did, but just make sure that you follow the steps that I'm doing. I used the rectangle. Don't forget, when I used the rectangle tool, I used this one. I just used that one, the corner to corner mode. So I've now got everything correct. So just go back over that offset tool. When I use the offset tool, I've got my offset. I can choose to make a copy. That makes a copy. This one duplicates this one offsets the original. I can do it by a distance, or I can just do it randomly. Now you do have to click inside your object, otherwise it's not going to work. So now I can start to draw my house. Before I draw my house, I'm going to create a layer for my house. At the moment I've only got my one design layer. I'm going to rename this my site. I want to create a new one for the house. Now I'm going to go back to the site to have a look at it because some information I need, and I need to see my scan. Now my house is going to sit just above this line here, this contour line. This contour line's at 14.5. This video is going to be recorded. It's going to be on my YouTube channel. So you don't have to try and record this. It should be recorded on my YouTube channel. It worked last time. So we'll have a look. So 14.5 meters. I want my house to be just above that. So let's go back to my house, and I'm going to edit my design layer, and I'm going to set the elevation of my design layer to 14.5 meters. Plus I need to be a little bit higher than that, so plus 225 millimeters. So I think it's cool. Vectorworks allows you to do that mathematics in the middle of whatever you're doing. So let's edit that. You can see, so it's done my calculation for me, and my units are actually in millimeters. So now what are we going to do? So what I'd like to do now is create some rectangles for my house. So I'm going to do the outside. Should we do the outside? I could just trace over the construction part, the framing plan. So I'm too lazy to redraw the entire thing, so I'm just going to make a bunch of rectangles. Now just use the keyboard shortcut for the rectangle, which is key 4. Somebody asked me the other day, why don't you do a page showing all the keyboard shortcuts? I thought it was a great idea. So I did a page. It's on my website, and it's I called it my top 20, but it's actually about 25 hotkeys and about 20 keyboard shortcuts. So back to this. Let's zoom in there, down to this corner. Again, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm using the Z or the Z key a lot for this. I use it all the time. And down here, it's not snapping to that corner. It doesn't want to snap. Alright, close as I can. There we are. Now that looks like I'm out by a small amount. You can see just here. So what I'm going to do is get my rectangle. Now that I've got my site, I didn't put my building on a class. So let's grab that PDF page. We'll put that on the same scan. Let's do that. So we'll assign to selections. That's on the scan as well. So when I turn that off, I can just see my building. So that doesn't join. You can see there was just a little bit missing. So these are going to be all of my rectangles, and I'm going to go and use this tool here, the select symbol tool, which I use a lot. So click on that, right click, add surface, joins all those together. So they're now one polygon, and I'm also going to create a new rectangle in here, and this is going to be a slab, this is going to be walls. Now I'm going to just move these from this layer to my house layer, because now I want to do the house. So that information is now stacked away on the house, and I can come back to my boundary because I'd like to create a site model. Now I can't remember if I make a site model in the movie. So I'm going to use the stake object, which is something I use a lot for site modeling. Because it allows me, the stake object allows me to snap onto this contour plane. I want this to be a cross, bubble style, it's going to be elevation, include a site model data, that's what I wanted. So I can just put a few of these stake objects in, and I do need to make sure I've got them at the right elevation. So before I make any new ones, let's just get my select similar tool, select one of those stake objects. They should all be, where are they? Oh, that's two PDF pages, I don't want that. Let's select that object. The elevation for these should be 12.5 m. 12.5 meters, I think, was the elevation. Yep, there we are. So the next ones that I make, I'm going to set the elevation to 13 meters, and then I can just snap along that line and it'll create the data I need to create a three-dimensional site model. If you're going to make a project, you should give it a site model. It makes it so much better when you're doing calculations, when you're doing cut and fill, and it just makes it look better as well. 13.5 m. So that should be this line here. Maybe zoom in, find the, see if I can snap to that point there. And change this to 14 meters. Now this one might be trickier to get to snap to the parts that are underneath here, but you can kind of see there's a guideline underneath. So Vectorworks is showing me the contour underneath the house. And I do need to have some contour lines or some, what do I need? I really need to have some site model objects outside my site, otherwise my site's going to be quite limited, and you do need some data points just outside the boundary. Okay, now 15 meters. At this point I don't need to have many points here, and I'm going to stop shortly because I could go all the way up the driveway, but I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, that's enough of those. So to create my site model, I'm going to select all of my contours, or all of my stake objects. I've got 60 of them. I'm going to use AEC, terrain, and create site model. Where has it gone? Create site model from source data. I'm just going to check my elevations. This is 250. Every 4 is a major. I'm not going to go through all the settings that I normally use. I don't think I've got time to do all of them. But that gives me a site model. So now you can see where my building should be on my site model. Now let's change back to our house. Back to that. Let's look at our house layer. There it is there. Now I want to build the walls in the slab quickly. So I'm going to select this polygon here, and I'm going to choose AEC, and I think I can use create walls from objects for this one as well. But there's another one as well that I sometimes use, which is to create walls from polygon. But I'll use this one. So we're going to use walls. I haven't got a wall style. I want it to be on the, what's this here? This is the offset. relative to the object. I think I want right. It's so quick to do. I'm going to do it, and then if I don't like it, I'm going to do it again. So it's come inside, which is correct. That's what I wanted it to do. I've got a little problem here. Look, you can see there's a terrible joint that I made in my wall. So what I'll do is I'll delete that one. What's that? That's a little bit of wall there. And I'll just select those two walls, and I'll just go Control J. It'll join those back together. So we got the walls. Now I did end up with some joints here. You can see there's a joint there, and part of that is because of the way I joined them together. I didn't go back and check, but I'm just going to get rid of those, select those two walls, and do the Control Join again. So that's not looking so bad. Now the nice thing about this is that when I go Show Snap Others, you can see my building is sitting just above the site. It's at the correct elevation. So what's next? We've got this. This is my polygon again. So right click, we're going to create objects from shapes. We're going to create a slab. And I don't have a slab yet, but now it's time to delete that source. Now that's my slab there. There's my slab data. Let's check our components of our slab. So the slab is using the top as the datum. We're going to give an elevation or thickness here about 2 feet, 600 millimeters. And we'll send that to the back as well. So right click, send, and send to back. And there's a keyboard shortcut here for that. So now when we have a look, we've got our building, and you can see that my slab isn't quite deep enough. Let's look at our components again. Let's make that a little bit deeper. I think I need to make it quite a lot deeper. That's better. So now it's really sitting into my site. Back to my plan view, we need to select our walls. I want to put a roof over this building, so I'm going to make a roof and do the AEC, create roof. I want to have a vertical roof, about 6 inches thick, 6 inches in, the roof angle 20 degrees. In fact, I'm going to make a flat roof out of this because I thought it'd be quite cool to have a flat roof. The roof pitch is only let's make it 8 degrees. Bearing height 3 meters. We're going to drop that down to 2700, which is 9 feet. Eve overhang, 2 feet eve overhang. The roof's going to go in a new class. Click OK. Now this isn't quite what I want, so I'm going to start adjusting this. One of the tricks I've got for adjusting the roof is to use the reshape tool and actually delete bits that I don't want. Now I think this is a cool trick where you can just delete parts that you don't like. So I've now changed that building to have a massive roof. Cool, so good so far. Now we're going to start changing some of these as well. So back to my selection tool. That's my eave. This one's going to be a gable. And eventually it's going to say that it can't do this. And I'm just going to carry on. And I'm just going to put gables all the way around. And it should turn this into a flat roof. So you can see I've got gables at that end. So we can do a gable here. I think there's a quick key for this, isn't there? There's an Alt-G. Alt-G, there it is. And okay, that. I want this one to be a gable. So I want all this to end up as one big gable roof. So we're going to do Alt-G again. And we're going to do here. Alt-G again. That's failed. Let's just go back and check. What's that one there? So that one wants to be a gable. And I want this one to be a gable as well. And normally what I do is just go around the entire roof, getting rid of them. Now the quick way to do this, of course, is to make a roof face, which just saves all this effort. But if I didn't do this, you wouldn't know that you can substantially change your roof. And there it is. I've made massive changes to the roof. It's now one big mono pitch. I'm going to select all my walls again, because I'd really like these walls to fit to that roof. So AEC, where's it gone? Fit walls to objects, constrain to objects on the house layer, and now my walls all fit that roof. So that's kind of a cool trick, I reckon, to getting it to do that. Now the roof I don't need to see at the moment, so it's on its own class, and we should be able to just turn that roof class off, and then we've got our doors and walls we can put in. So I just think this is a really quick way to get the drawings you want, or to get the project that you want. I don't want to see the scan any longer. I can change the view. Now I've changed the view a couple of times with this tool, and I'm getting a bit fed up with keep going back to make the change and to rotate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now tell Vectorworks to remember this rotation. So my save view, right click, let's create a new saved view. Don't recall the layers and classes. So I don't want to change the layers and classes, and it's my rotated plan. Rotated plan. Cool. And okay. So why do I do that? Well, because I'm going to go back to this rotated plan a lot. And you can see it just zooms in. So top plane view, doesn't matter where I'm working, I'm playing with it over here. I go rotate a plane, double click, and it just zooms me in really quickly. So to me, this is a real speed saving, being able to do that. I'm not sure I want to put in all the doors and windows. That's going to take me a little while. So back to my building shell tool set, find the window tool. I'm going to go to some settings. This is general, it's an unstyled window. I want this window to be 300 wide, 1800 high, and its type is, I really want louver windows, but we don't have them. So I'm just going to do, or jealousy windows I think some people call them. So that's my window, so let's put one of those windows in here. Now the easy way for me to do this is to change this to a new plugin style. Now the beauty of this is I can then go around and put these in. And if I make a change, that's a bit ugly, never mind. Let's keep putting some more windows in. And I want a window here. Now if I make a change to the style, so that's, I put them all in as unstyled, let's select them all. I thought I was putting them all in as styled, so let's select all my windows, let's replace those with a styled window. Now the great thing about that is now they've all got the same style, I can now edit that style, and I can make that window narrower or wider. And they've all just gotten narrower, you can see that. Now if I make another window, let's take this window, we want this window to be unstyled. Now we can make changes to it. Settings. So now I want a window which is 1200 high, it's 1600 wide. I forgot what that is. It's just over 5 feet, 5 feet 4 inches. So it's got that. It's going to be not a casement, it's going to be a custom window. We look at our custom configuration. We want 2 columns. And I'm not going to worry about getting them perfect. So let's go OK and OK. And I'm going to convert this one as well to a styled window. So new plugin. New folder. No, not new folder. Let's just go OK. And we're going to call this window style 2. Okay. So now I've got 2 window styles. I can then select some of these windows and I can swap them to a different style. So I can grab that window and then I can say, let's replace it with window style 2. So now I've got a control over which windows are doing what, and I can do the same thing with doors. So I can create a door style that I want. Let's have a look at a door style. I want this door to be, where's my leaf? So first of all, I want this to be glazed. I want the top rail to be 3 inches, the left right rails 3 inches, and the bottom rail 12 inches. So it's got a big deep bottom rail. There it is. And general, my door is about 860, 2100 high, which is 6 feet, just over 6 feet high. It's swing, it's a single leaf. I'm going to make it a double leaf. I'm going to make it 2 times that wide, so I can go times 2. And I've got double doors. There are lots of options that you can do here. It can be a swing, it can be a folding door, so I can have a bifold door. Let's have a look. How many do I want? So at the moment it's got 2. Let's make that times 4. And I want to have, now at the moment I can't change, there's 2 on each side. So it's a bifold single. Let's make it a bifold multi-part. The swing is out, and I'm going to choose multiple. So now I can say that I've got 3 on one side, swing is out, and I've got 1 on the other side, and the swing is also out. So that's what I want. And my angle, 3D visualization, 2D, there's my open angle, 85 degrees. That should look better. Okay, so we've got enough here. Let's put a door in. The door swings out. And I can make those into a style as well. So now when we start to look at our building, it's starting to have a bit of shape to it, starting to have windows, and if we turn the roof on, it's starting to come together as well. So I don't think that takes a whole long time to do that. Now, if there's any questions, don't forget to drop them into the comment, into the live chat. There's place for comments in there. But I thought that was pretty quick to be able to do that. How are we getting on for time? Somebody wanted me to do this in the right amount of time, so I'm just going to check my watch. Cool. So that took just about half an hour to do that. So the other thing I wanted to cover was last week when I tried the live, and I apologize for that. I really didn't make a great job of it. So this time, what we've got is we've got a house. This is a project I'm working on for one of my courses. This is in a Vectorworks for domestic design. So it just focuses on designing houses. But what I'd like to look at is if we go to view 1, where is it? The rotated grid. You can see I've used that again. I want the floor 2 existing. Cool. So this is the upper floor of the project. Let's just check these. Those are on the none class. They'll have to stay there. But one of the things I would like to do is I'd like to be able to create data visualizations that show different parts of the project. Now I tried this last week. I didn't do very well at it. So I've spent some time this week getting it looking much better. So what have we got? If we select a wall, we can see that this is an existing wall. It's got a size, it's got a height, it's got all that stuff. But I've also added additional data to this. Now I've created this data called, and it's this record format I've created, the wall report record, and it tells me that this wall is an existing wall, it's load bearing, it contains bracing, it's got thermal insulation, and it's got no fire resistance rating. So why do I bother doing that? because up here there's an ability to create data visualizations. So for example, if I choose load bearing, all the walls that are load bearing have now gone red, and any wall that's not load bearing has not got a fill, which I thought was really cool. I don't want to see the load bearing walls. I want to see which walls are fire rated. I don't think I've got any. No fire rated walls. I want to know the difference between existing and demolition. So all the walls highlighted are demolished walls. So the data visualizations are really cool. Now I've added all this information in. So I thought what I could do is to go through, I don't have to add it to each wall anymore, but I can go through and I can make a data visualization. So these are all in my current document, and there's my user folder. I can actually select those and export those to my user folder. Now if I export those to my user folder, it means I can use them on every job, which is kind of cool. Okay, so let's create a new one. I want to know which walls have got thermal insulation and which walls have got sound insulation. So first of all, I'm going to name my data visualization. So this is my insulation. It's going to look for things. I'm going to leave that as it is. It's just going to look for everything. We want to use a record. I'm looking for a record called wall report record. I don't want to know the wall phase. I want to know the insulation type. So if it's got no insulation, we're going to have a fill, and let's edit this. So no insulation, it's going to have a solid fill, which is white, and a thin line. Cool. If it's got sound insulation, it's going to have green, so solid. I'm going to give it a green color, and I'm going to give it a heavy line. If it's got thermal insulation, I'm going to give it a solid, I'm going to give it red, and I'm going to give it a heavy line as well. So if you forget to tick the apply, this doesn't work. So let's try that to start with. Okay, and we should have our data visualization here. Insulation, let's turn that on. Yay, nothing happened. And nothing happened because I didn't tick the apply button. Let's edit that. Now let's go apply, apply, apply. Okay, okay. And now you can see which walls are insulated with thermal and which ones are insulated with sound. Now I think this wall should also be insulated. There's no record format here, so I'm going to attach the record. I'm going to find my wall report record. That's an existing wall. It's load bearing. No. It contains bracing. No bracing. It has insulation. We want that to have thermal insulation, and it has no fire resistance rating. And so you can go around and make all these changes. As that wall is not demolished. Oh yes, that wall's demolished. This wall is demolished. This wall I think is existing, and it doesn't have our wall record attached. So we need to make sure we attach that. Wall report record, existing, load bearing, no, bracing, no, thermal insulation. It will have sound insulation in that wall, and no fire resistance rating. These walls that are demolished, they're on a class. I can easily turn those off as well. So this is a great way, this data visualization is a great way of being able to change what you're looking at without going physically to make those changes and changing the graphic style of each one. Because now if I change from insulation to load bearing, it just changes. Now if we create a viewport for this, which is where it really starts to become powerful. So let's create a viewport, right click. Oh, I can't create a viewport from that one. So view, create viewport, yes. We need to put this on a new set of drawings. So I'll make a new set. New sheet layer. 701 I think is the one. This is my data visualization. So it's a new sheet layer. I'm going to put on data visualization, and this one's going to be called, what should we call it? What's it doing at the moment? It was load bearing. Load bearing. So it's going to go on this one, and I'm just checking these things. Data visualization, it's going to do load bearing, and it's also going to create a data visualization legend, which is really cool. So you can now see this little legend appears, whether it's yes or no. So let's put that over here. Let's drag a copy of this one across. Forgot my keyboard shortcuts for a minute. So this is over there. Let's go back to data visualization. This isn't load bearing. I want this to be demo versus existing. Correct? Yeah, that one. Now, you can see that I've now created two viewports that show different information, demolished and existing and proposed, and that one. Now let's create some more. Let's just drag a copy down. Now this drawing here, just this one, I want this data visualization to be something different. So not load bearing. I think I've done demo. Let's do insulation. We've done that one. Let's do fire rating, or I'll do insulation because the insulation one's quite cool. And I've also got now my little legend down here. This one's going to be a bit boring. It's the one for fire resistance ratings. The only one left for me to do. Fire rated walls. And there's no fire rated walls. But if I change the layers on this one, and I change the layers to the floor below, they're all fire rated. So it's just a very, I think the data visualizations are a really powerful way of keeping track of different information that you're going to put, but also being able to present it to somebody like the contractor. So what else have we got on here? We're getting on for time. I don't see any questions there. So I've done some cool stuff. I was hoping that you'd have some questions. If you don't have any questions, let me know what you'd like me to cover. So I'm going to carry on with this a little bit. I'm just going to cover some stuff that I've made in movies recently. So data visualization is something that I'm really quite passionate about. But the other thing that I did recently was I created a view. Let's go to view 1, I think it is. Let's go back to my design layer. Let's go view 1. It's gone back to there. View 2. No, I don't want to be there. I want to be back on that floor. Now let's try my save view. Okay, there we are. Let's turn all my layers back on. Turn off my clip cube. That's my window elevations. I don't want to see those. Don't want to see that. No, no. I want to see my site model. I don't want to see my details. Okay, now let's see what we got. That's better. That's what I wanted to see. So this is my entire project. I seem to be missing some information here. And I'm going to use my visibility tool, and I'm going to hide recession planes. have I got? Got that on grey. Let's turn that off. Now I thought that I had saved view 1 and view 2. You can see I've lost some of my information about the... Let's just have a look. I thought I had some balustrades. I've lost my walls. That's not good. And I've lost the slab. No, the slab's still there, but I've lost all my walls. Let's turn my fixtures on. No. Furniture. Where's furniture? I've got my furniture. My room labels are turned off. Doors. I've lost all my walls. So this is a clip cube, which I quite like. And if I go to the edge there, I can see into the building. So I'm missing my walls. Let's search for wall. I seem to be missing my proposed wall. Let's have a look. Let's turn all my walls on. Ah, there's everything. Okay, so there's everything. That's what I wanted to see. I've got walls upstairs, I've got walls downstairs, I've got my clip cube. Now my clip cube is actually designed to be, or has been moved, to be parallel to my building. When you first start using clip cube, it's not. I've made a movie on that in my YouTube channel. But I thought it would be really cool to show you the trick that I did with the creating a section, where you can create a cut through a building like this. How much of my building do I want to see? Do I want to see the entire building? Or do I want to cut the section back so you don't see beyond that part of the building? Because there might be a section where you don't want to see the entire building. So once you've got the clip cube set up the way you want, you can then go select the clip cube, right click, and you can choose create section viewport. Now this will create a section viewport with the highlighted face of my clip cube. If I highlight a different face like that one and I go create section viewport, it'll be based on this highlighted face. So you go create section viewport. What do you end up with? Let's have a look. I think I've created one already. So this is the one I made last night, so I went ahead and did this one. And this is section viewport. When we update it, it's based on that clip cube, and the clip cube is telling it how far back to go. But once you've done that, you can adjust this. And so in this clip cube, or in the section viewport I should say, I've actually changed the advanced properties. I've got extents beyond the clip cube. I've changed it to 20 feet. It was a lot less than that, so let's make it 10 feet. Let's update. And what we should see is the building at the background disappears. So it's just this one part of the front of the building. And this is the way the clip cube was set up originally, just to show that one part. So you can see that it's got my weatherboards, it's got my beams, and I've got this elevation benchmark here showing the underside of that beam, and it's showing the underside of the beam relative to 0. These are showing the underside of the, well, these are showing the elevation of each part. So I'm going to edit my annotations. So that's my elevation benchmark, that's my other elevation benchmark, and one of the things you can do is to pick a reference elevation. So I'm going to pick that one, and so now I know the underside of that beam is 7 feet 6 inches above my finished floor, which is kind of a cool trick. These are called grid elements, these ones here. Let's go back into edit my annotations. These are my grid objects, my grid line objects. I don't want to go all through the building, so I'm just going to pull those up. Grab hold of this one and pull that one up as well. Make sure I line up with that one. So that's kind of handy to have the grids. Now the grids come back from my design layer where I actually put down a grid, and when I'm perpendicular to the When my section is perpendicular to my grid, I will see those grid elements. Where it's not perpendicular, they will not show up. So you can make those show up in elevations as well. Here I've got my datum here. Let's see. My grids should be there. So sectional instances shows me where my sections are. I don't know what I've put them on. So just having a look here. So this one here is interesting. You notice it's chopped the top of the roof. I don't want to cover that today. So I've covered most of the things that I wanted to cover today. We're nearly out of time. So just quickly, are there any questions that people would like me to answer right now? And there's no chats here for a while. So I'm just going to wait for you guys to give me a little bit of feedback. But also, you can drop a comment on my YouTube channel, or you can send me an email and tell me what you would like me to cover next week. If I don't hear from you, I'm going to think up something. I'm going to cover that. Normally what I'm thinking about doing is maybe using this day as a day to catch up on some of the YouTube movies that I've made. Things like creating the section viewport. Maybe cover things like how to speed you up using keyboard shortcuts. I use them a lot. And this is just a standard Vectorworks interface that I'm using. I use a much more customized interface where I've given hotkeys to lots of these different tools that I use all the time, and it really speeds me up. So if there's no comments, thank you for watching, and so I hope you don't mind. I call it Funday Friday. It is Saturday for me where I am, but it's Friday for America. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all next week.